Good morning, Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, you all. Please forgive my appearance. This morning is the wee hours of the morning, and I was attempting to add the scriptures that I used on yesterday, and one scripture that I left out was Revelations 18. And as I started to read that scripture, I said, "Oh my goodness, I have to dissect this scripture. I have to discuss it." So I'm just coming on to discuss this scripture and make a short video as a sort of a part two or continuation to the video that is entitled Have You Taken the Mark? So okay. Let me go ahead at this time and share my screen. All right, so Revelations 18, verse 23 reads, "And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived." So the first word I'm going to really dissect um this scripture. We're going to look at almost all the primary words in the concordance. So the first would be the light. The light of the candle shall shine no more at all in thee. So we're going to look at light and candle. So light is
Strong's G 5457. Phos. Phos.
phos, 54, 57 in the Greek. And it is used as light, the light emitted by a lamp, a heavenly light, such as surrounds angels when they appear on earth. Anything emitting light, Salakia, a star, fire, because it is light and sheds light. So you can imagine the fire on a candle, a lamp or a torch, light, i.e., brightness, a lamp. And then it goes down here and saying that how the Most High is light. Okay, but let's go to the definition. The definition says of phos, from an obsolete, to shine or make manifest, especially by rays, illuminousness. In the widest application, natural or artificial, abstract or concrete, literal or figurative, fire or light. But it said the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee. All right, so now let's look at candle.
Strong's G 3088. Luchnas. Luchnas.
Luchnas, a lamp, a candle that is placed on a stand or a candlestick. From the base of G 3022, a portable lamp or another illuminator, figuratively or literally, a candle or light. So now let's read Matthew 5:14 through 16. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it gives light to all that are in the house. Let your light shine. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. So we are described as the light of the world, the candle that cannot be hidden. And when he said, neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick. And that candlestick gives light to all that are in the house. We are told to let our light shine before men. But this verse here in Revelation says, the light of the candlestick shall shine no more at all in thee. Lights out. The lights were put out figuratively and literally. Figuratively, that light that illuminates from us, from Christ himself and the Ruach dwelling in us. I think about the scripture that says, I am crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live, but Christ lives through me. Christ is in me living. But the lights were shining no more figuratively as well as literal. Lights were out. Because many funeral homes have said that within the last few years, their business has tripled or quadrupled. And many insurance companies said that they're paying out policies. One insurance company, I was looking for the video that I saw from an insurance company where the spokesman said they went from paying out 500 million the year prior to 1.5 billion. So it tripled, and within the following year. So let's keep going. All right, so it said, the voice of the bridegroom shall be heard no more in thee. The voice of the bridegroom, we know who that is. That is Christ.
Strong's G 3566, Numphias. Numphias.
He is our bridegroom. We are preparing to meet him. We are, hopefully, we are being those wise virgins that are storing up the oil right now. That we're storing up the oil. We're filling ourselves with his word. We're feasting on his word, his bread, his manna. We're storing the wheat in the storehouse. We are the storehouse, and the wheat, that's the figurative that was given with Joseph storing up the wheat for the time of famine. We are to be storing up the wheat, which is the word, the bread, the manna, for the time of famine that's approaching, to be able to endure and have the wherewithal to endure to the end. But we are set aside right now, waiting for our bridegroom without making sure that our garments are pressed and has no spots, has no blemishes. We're doing our hair. We're adorning ourselves for our bridegroom at this time. All right. And the definition literally means a bridegroom, literally or figuratively, bridegroom. His voice will be heard no more at all in thee. Why? Because he cannot dwell in an unclean temple. He cannot dwell in an unclean house. He cannot dwell in a house that is no longer made after its kind. He can't dwell in a house of linen and wool, a house of iron and clay. And the voice of the bride will be heard no more at all in thee. This is the word for bride, G3565.
Strong's G 3565, Numphe. Numphe.
So the voice of the bridegroom or the voice of the bride will no longer be heard at all in thee. And it literally means bride. I'm sorry. The definition, nymphe. From a primary but obsolete verb to veil as a bride, compared to the Latin was to marry. And this looks like where we would get the word nuptials, or this nuptu, to marry. A young married woman as veiled, including a betrothed girl, by implication, a son's wife, a bride, or daughter-in-law. Okay, a betrothed girl. So the bride, but I find this interesting. This word for bride is used in Revelations 18, Revelations 21, and Revelations 22. And it all refers to the New Jerusalem, which we know is the bride of Christ, his church. So that the voice of the bridegroom or the church, the New Jerusalem, his bride will no longer be heard at all in thee. Let's keep going. The scripture says, for thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. Thy merchants.
Strong's G 1713, Emperus. Emperus.
Emperors. Emperors. And this to me sounds like where we get the word emperors. Emperors from. Used biblically as one on a journey, whether by sea or land, especially for trade. One that's trading across seas and lands is number one. And then second, a merchant, as opposed to a retailer or a petty tradesman. Strong's definition, emperos. And the is from G 1722 and from the base of G 4198, a wholesale tradesman, a merchant. So we're told that the merchants of the earth will be behind this. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth. Who do we call the great men of the earth? They're known as the elite, but great men.
Strong's G 3175, Megastan. Megastan.
Megastan means great men or the lords of the earth, the grandees, the magnates, the nobles, the chief men of a city or a people, of the associates or courtiers of a king. To me, this looks like magistrates. I don't know. Plural from G 3176, grandees, the great men or the lords. We call them the elite. All right. And it says, for by thy sorceries were all nations deceived. So the great men, the merchants of the earth, the elite, through thy sorceries, deceived all nations. All right, we're going to look up the word sorcery.
Strong's G 5331, Pharmakia. Pharmakia.
Pharmakia. Pharmakia or pharmakia which translates to sorcery, the use or the administering of drugs, poisoning, sorcery, magical arts, often found in connection with idolatry, fostered by it, metaphor, the deceptions and seductions of idolatry. The definition for pharmakia or pharmakia is from G 5332, which simply means medication or pharmacy, i.e., it basically translates to magic, literal or figurative magic, witchcraft, or sorcery. So we're told that the great men of the earth were administering a type of sorcery, deceiving the world. And when we look into this word sorcery, we see that it's medication, pharmakia, but it was actually, it says up here, the administering of drugs or poisoning. People were being poisoned with a sorcery that they thought was the administering of drugs, but it was actually a poisoning. And then we're going to look at this word. It looks like it's pharmakias or pharmakias. Let's see what it is. Pharmakios.
Strong's G 5332, Pharmakus. Pharmakus.
Pharmakus. So this, remember, pharmakia was derived from G 5332, which is pharmakus. What is pharmakus? It's a root word, and it's from pharmakon, which means a drug or a spell giving potion. Basically, it's the word for a sorcerer, one who prepares or uses magic in remedies. So a pharmacist, pharmakon, a drug, i.e. spell giving potion, a druggist, or pharmacist, a poisoner, by extension, a magician, or a sorcerer. Now I want to show you all this.
Started at Microsoft. This was something that was just a passion. You once said to me, which I thought was a fascinating point, you never thought of yourself as an entrepreneur. If you hadn't been doing computers, it's not like you would have started a chain of restaurants. This was about computers and your passion. Did you ever think to yourself, this is the kind of manager I want to be?
Yeah, over time, as you're writing less code and you're hiring people who write code, and then you're hiring people who...
Okay, so I want you, I'm stopping it for a second because I want you all to focus on every time he talks, he is throwing his arm. He always touches his glasses and doing things of that nature. Pay attention because he's actually casting spells.
Manage people who write code, and you're explaining to the world why the magic of the personal computer and the magic of software can help them get things done. You really are forced to say, do I enjoy this? Am I good at this? Should I have someone else do it? In most cases, the founder doesn't stick around for 25 years and end up managing 50,000 people. That's a fairly unusual case, but it's a nice case because you have a certain continuity. Nobody ever wondered, okay, who's in charge here? You know, Bill wrote this in a memo. I wonder what somebody else thinks. No, if I wrote it, then, hey, let's just go do it.
Pay attention. Look how he's holding his hands as he's giving, like, as he's talking here. He has his thumb and his middle finger together, and he moves it around as he's speaking. All right. And so let's look at another one. It's the other end of the video.
The co-head of the foundation.
Do you think there are leadership rules, principles? Because I sometimes wonder, if you were to ask somebody what's a good way to run a company, they would probably put down a list of 10 things, and Steve Jobs would have violated all 10 of those in the way he, or at least a vast majority of those in the way he ran Apple. And yet, I mean, it's the largest company in the world today. Is it just too specific or varied for there to be general lessons?
Well, Steve, that's a good example of don't do this at home. That is, it's really easy to imitate the bad parts of Steve, of at times being an and it is, I have yet to meet any person who, in terms of picking talent, hyper motivating that talent, and having a sense of design of, oh, this is good, this is not good. So he brought some incredibly positive things along with that toughness. And I always said that I was like a minor wizard because he would be casting spells and I would see people mesmerized. But because I'm a minor wizard, the spells don't work on me. I could not cast those spells. But I'd see them and I would say, hey, wait, don't. You're going to work even more than I would ask you to. This is crazy. Or you know, like when you did the next introduction, which is a computer that completely failed. It was such nonsense, and yet he mesmerized those people. Oh, yes, million by a million and black cube and all this stuff. And I was like, wait a minute, that spell should not work at all. It doesn't have any reality to it. So Steve is a very singular case where the company really was on a path to die. and it goes and becomes the most valuable company in the world with some products that are really quite amazing.
So I hope you all caught this. He said that Steve was a wizard casting spells, and he wondered how was Steve Jobs able to cast the spells that he cast, but Steve Jobs' spells did not work on him because he's a minor wizard himself. The great men of the earth were described as sorcerers, and they were dispensing sorcery or poison to the world under the guise of pharmakia or medicine. And then this is an old video that I made, but I just wanted to show this little clip here of what he says about vaccinations.
Now that's back from high school algebra. But let's take a look. First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. But then
Okay. All right, so I wanted you all to hear where he says what there's 6.8 billion or however many people in the world today. And if a really good job is done through vaccines and reproductive health care, he can get that down at least 15%. So anyway, I wanted to add this as a part 2 of have you taken the mark, because I felt like this Bible verse was very relevant and I should not have left it out. But I had so many verses written down, I just didn't cover it. And as I started to just put those verses in the description box, I said, no, I have to expound on this one. It's too important. Anyway, you all, brothers and sisters, you all have a blessed and happy Shabbat. And I will see you all in the next video, Ahaya willing. Shabbat Shalom.